Hi guys, it's Anna and I'm back with another Excel tutorial. This is part 2 of the XLOOKUP tutorial. So last time I showed you the basics of XLOOKUP and I had two different sheets with lists of students with different kinds of information on each sheet, and I matched up the student ID from one sheet with the student ID from the other sheet to pull some information over. So for instance, to pull over a parent's name or something like that. So this time I'm going to show you in part 2 how to overcome an issue you might have when trying to use XLOOKUP. So here I've got two sheets with students listed, but this one is a little bit more problematic. This sheet here does not have student ID numbers on it. So already I can't match up student ID numbers to pull that information with XLOOKUP. The other problem is it doesn't even have the same name format. This one has last name, comma, first name in one column. That's called formatted name. And this one has separate columns for first name and last name. They do both have date of birth. And in this particular list, every student has a different birth date. But in real life, with your real students, it's very possible you have two students with the same birth date. So I don't want to match up just based on birth date. It needs to be something like a student ID number that is specific to that one student and is not going to match any other student. So I think with the data that we have in this list, the best way to do it would be some form of the name plus the date of birth. So we're going to put those together to make some kind of unique identifier for each student. I'm going to call this an identifier. You can call it whatever you want in your sheet. You can call it name plus birthday. And what I'm going to do is I want to, because my names are in different formats here, I'm going to want my identifier to include kind of this formatted name version plus the birth date. That way I can pull the formatted name plus the birth date on this sheet and they'll make them match each other. You'll see what I mean in just a minute. So the first thing I want to do is I want to make the formatted name and then I want to add the birth date to it. Now to combine different pieces of text into a text string, we use a formula called concat. So I'm going to do equals and type concat, and you see it pops up in the suggestions. Concat is short for concatenate, which was a longer word, and they just shortened it to concat so you don't have so much to type when you're typing this formula. And what it does is just put different pieces of text together to make a long piece of text. So I want it to start with the last name. So I'm going to click on the column that has the student's last name, or the cell that has that student's last name. You're going to separate all the items that you're putting together with a comma. So I'm going to put first name and comma, and then the date of birth. And then I'm going to close parentheses and get my identifier that's specific to this student. Okay, but I want you to notice something. If I do the same thing over here, identifier, and I'm going to do concat, and I'm going to put together the name, comma, and the birth date. Notice that this name is black, comma, space, serious. And this name over here is Malfoy Draco, no comma, no space. I'm going to need those identifiers to be an exact match. So I think the easiest way to do that is to fix it in this formula right here. I would need to add it so that there's a comma and a space between the first and last, or last and first name. So the way I do that, I can type in any text that I want to add in the concatenate if I put it in parentheses. So let's say I put in an and. Now it's going to say Malfoy and Draco, or an or. Okay, the important thing is that whatever I'm typing has to be in quotation marks. So I'm going to start again. I'm going to do concat. I'm going to do last name, comma. The next item I want is a comma and a space. So I'm going to put that in quotation marks. Then the first name. Shoot. I forgot my comma. Then the first name, comma, then the date of birth. Okay. So again, let's make sure we got that. Concat. We're going to do the last name, comma, we're going to do quotation marks, comma, space, because that's what I'm putting in between last name and first name. Then a comma before I choose first name, comma, date of birth. Okay. All right, I'm going to fill that down for the whole row or the whole column so that all these students have a unique identifier for them. Notice that it changed the date of birth to a numeric form, a weird looking form. This is called a serial number, and it's just a different way that Excel can do calculations with dates. Don't worry about that. It won't matter because it'll be the same serial number on both sheets. So over here, I'm going to fill down what I already did. All right, and now I have a unique identifier on each sheet that should match, okay? So on this sheet, I'm wanting to fill in the student ID number. So now I'm going to use my XLOOKUP, and I'm going to use this identifier to match it on each sheet. So I'm going to do equals XLOOKUP. My lookup value is this identifier. The place I want to look it up is in the identifier column on the other sheet. And what I want it to give me back is the student ID number. Okay, and there it did it. All right, so let me fill those down. So now I've got student IDs in here. We talked about before, sometimes it's easier to get rid of formulas that you may want to copy these and paste as values so that you get rid of that formula. One reason you might do that, maybe you don't want this identifier column making a mess in the middle of your spreadsheet because it's no longer needed. So you could copy this and paste as values to get rid of that formula and then get rid of column G by deleting it. If I delete it without doing copy paste as values, suddenly this formula is broken now because it was using that identifier to look it up. You could also just hide this column so that it's still there, but it doesn't show. Okay, so but we got our student IDs over here. Okay, so that's the solution to that. This was a little longer than I intended, but hopefully that works for you. That's a way that you can identify students even if you don't have the student ID to match. I'm going to do a part 3 of this, and on part 3 we're going to look at how to pull data when you have something like schedules and the same student is listed multiple times, how it can pull from the correct row or the correct line when that student has multiple entries. So we'll look at that on part 3. Thanks, guys. Bye.